Christian DeAndre at USA Today Sports here with 16th overall pick, former University of Oregon tight end, current New York Jets tight end, Kenyon Sadiq. Kenyon, first off, thank you for taking the time. Second off, congratulations. How does it feel to be a New York Jet?
Thank you. First off, it feels really, really good to kind of have that whole process kind of be over and, get to work with the guys and get to meet some new teammates and stuff. It's awesome.
So what was your first impression? You get that phone call, it's the New York area code. What was your first thought when that comes through and you hear that voice on the other line saying, Kenyon, you're going to be a New York Jet?
It's just surreal. They told me if I was there at 16, they're gonna come get me, and that's exactly what they did. I love that staff, getting to really meet them in person, this past week and get to see what they're about. I'm really excited.
Were there any other teams that you took top 30 visits to that you thought might jump the line and get ahead of New York?
It was really like there was a really wide range, especially kind of being at the time position where I was at. So, it could have really been anyone. It was just kind of pick by pick, seeing who was going to get me.
All right, so you're joining a revived offensive core in New York. A lot of young playmakers there, including a guy they took in the second round last year. Obviously, you and Mason Taylor can work together. How does that fit look? What do you think that's going to be with those two tight end sets? How do your two games complement each other?
Yeah, I think it's really common. You're starting to see a lot of these two, three, even four tight end sets pop up. So, I don't think it's, you know, out of the blue of them taking a tight end or anything like that. But no, I think our games could definitely complement each other. I think we're both unique in our own ways, and I think it'll work really well. I have a bit more speed. He has a lot of raw strength, and his hands are really good. And even with Jeremy Rutgers as well, he's a big,
Yeah.
strong blocker as well. And I think we can all work together really well.
Okay, so do you see yourself more as the move tight end in that situation? But I mean, you also got a guy in Mason Taylor who runs a 4.61 40. Do you see yourself kind of flexing in and out, going in line and going out to the slot, or do you see yourself in one role specifically?
Really both. I think it helps offense out if I can do both and not be a liability in the run game.
Okay, we talked about that athleticism and that run game. We really saw you make strides as a blocker over your time in Oregon. What really kind of set off that improvement? What made you go from a guy who is a little bit raw to being a guy who was one of the more polished blockers in his class?
Yeah, it was really just me wanting to do it, being, classified as an undersized tight end or whatnot.
Yeah.
Me kind of wanted to, break that narrative of being a bad blocker. So, just a lot of hours working technique, weight room, but it's mainly just getting on the field and getting reps and just paying attention to detail.
So that's a lot of functional strength. What are the workouts you're using to really beef up that blocking technique? I mean, obviously, people are going to say, okay, you got to get that trunk ready, you got to get the bench press going. What were you doing to make sure that you could, chip at edge rushers and get up to linebackers and just blow their doors off?
Yeah, it was really just making my whole body strong in every area, really, not really having any weak points, strengthening my core, strengthening my base, really strengthening even my grip strength at times just to, have a tight grip on guys.
All right, you're heading to a team that's made a lot of coaching changes recently, including bringing in Frank Reich. Frank Reich is a guy that we've seen had some great success with tight ends in the past, whether they're traditional inline guys or more athletic move tight ends like Trey Burton or Eric Ebron. Have you talked to him? Has he discussed what he wants to see out of you and what the future holds?
Yeah, yeah, of course. I talked to him on Zoom and then finally getting to meet him in person was great. He has a great plan of how not he only envisions me, but the offense as a whole. I don't really want to go into details or anything, but
Sure.
I really trust him and I'm really excited to play for him.
Okay, we've seen the past few years, tight end was formerly a spot where there was a learning curve jump to the pros, but guys like Sam Laporta, Colston Loveland, Tyler Warren have all made really immediate jumps and big impacts as a rookie. What do you attribute that to? What is making the game come to young tight ends on Sundays a little bit more easily?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it just more speaks on the player than the time position as a whole. I think it's unique and hard to do, and shout out to those guys. But I think it's also the offense kind of catering to what they're good at. Getting them involved. Figure out ways they can help the team.
Okay. You got to play with Dante Moore, guy who we thought was going to be a top two pick this year, decided to go back for another year of seasoning at Oregon. What is he doing so well that makes him such a high level draft prospect? And how can he build on that in 2026?
Yeah, I mean, he really does everything pretty well, to be honest. His arm talent is just off the charts. Sees all these throws, he's getting hit in the face, throwing
Yeah.
touchdowns still, not really phased by pressure, but he's also
Yeah.
commanding the offense as well. It's just him taking those next strides of, being confident in himself, trusting everyone around him, kind of developing everyone around him as well to, come out next year.
So, building a rapport with your quarterback, I mean, one of the things that we've seen from Dante is that escapability. When he breaks out of the pocket, he's got guys chasing him, you know where to be. How do you build that rapport? How do you make that connection where you can sense your quarterback is in trouble and you know exactly where to go?
Yeah, I think it's just when you're being around him, whether it's practice reps, film room, those things, kind of just getting to see how they think a little bit, in those situations, how they're going to act, what they're going to do.
All right, so you're going from a younger guy to an older veteran in Geno Smith. What does it mean to play with a guy who's been in the league for more than a decade and, more importantly, has faced and overcome adversity? A handful of inspiring stories from Geno in his career. Now he's your quarterback. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, I just want to use him as a resource, being my first year coming into the league and just suck up as much information as I can. You said
Yeah.
he's been through so much adversity. He's kind of seen the ins and outs of this league. So, I mean, really just getting around him, like I said, seeing how he thinks, seeing how he processes information, me just really being a sponge when I'm around him, to be honest, just to get every bit of information.
Cool. So big reason why you went 16th overall was you went out there and lit the combine on fire, if we're being honest. It was actually a great combine for a lot of tight ends as well. And I know this is also a combine where a bunch of guys were out there with victory insoles. How did this partnership come across? How did you end up linked up with victory? And what did that do for you in your training and in your combine performance?
Yeah, I think they just had initially sent a bunch of installs out for us at Exos to try out. We all kind of, it wasn't by force or anything like that. We all just kind of tested them out and ended up really liking them,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to jumping in them. You can definitely tell a big difference. So as soon as we started testing with the insoles, we all kind of wanted to jump in them.
Okay, so when you get these insoles, are they more like returning the energy that you're putting into the ground back up towards you? Because I'm trying to get back into running a little bit, and like I got these big chunky Spice Girl type sneakers to go out there, and man, I'm out of shape. It's not going great, but they do
Yeah.
like a nice kind of like energy return. Are you getting those from the Victory insoles?
Yeah, definitely a little bit. You can kind of feel it, like you said, when you're running, you can kind of feel that force coming
Yeah,
back up. Rather, where like traditional insoles, you're gonna kind of like sink into it. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? So these ones, you get that kind of that nice feedback. It's not like uncomfy by any means, but you get the nice feedback.
Okay. You got the full Big Ten experience this year in Eugene 1 week, in Piscataway the next. How difficult is that being part of a coast to coast conference when you're a student athlete? How do you cope with that? How do you deal with those long road trips where you're, dealing with a 5, 6 hour flight?
Yeah, I think it's just being professional. One, I think the coach just structured it really well to put us in a position to succeed. But I think it's just being professional, taking care of your body, really just those things along the way. Getting good sleep, nutrition, hydration, all those things.
All right. Speaking of Oregon, you guys obviously have an edge in the sartorial lineup. So, what is the best uniform combination the Ducks have?
In my opinion, it'd be just kind of like the significance of it being the breast cancer or the
Yeah.
retro.
Okay.
Those are my two favorite.
Okay, so the pink accents or the old school. I
Yeah.
mean, he's not officially Puddles the Duck, but like, do you call Puddles the Duck in your heart?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, beautiful. What's one route you run better than any other tight end in the 2026 draft class?
Steam.
Okay,
A seam versus man to man versus cover two, take the middle.
yeah.
Yeah.
So is that in those cover two situations? Are you finding spaces or are you more just blowing the doors off guys?
It's definitely a little bit of both,
Yeah.
kind of win with speed, but also find the zone, not getting too far across the field where, safety can make the play or running into someone else's landmark, but kind of just keeping it skinny to make them decide.
Nice, man. Appreciate that. All right, run low on time. I was wondering if you could maybe give me some scouting reports on your teammates who got drafted this year. We'll run through a few guys. Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right. First off, a guy we were talking about a little bit earlier before you got on here, Chicago Bears safety Dylan Thieneman. What is Dylan Thieneman bringing to the Bears?
Yeah. He's bringing the hardest worker in the room, that's for sure. It was always me and him in the morning in the facility, just first
Yeah.
there, getting extra work. And on top of that, he's a great football player. He's a guy that can play in space. He's a great sideline to sideline guy. Really misses tackles, and he's always going to know where to be and when to be there. So, he knows everything about the game. And on top of that, he's a great person. So they got a good player for sure.
Yeah, I mean, man was able to thrive at Purdue. That doesn't happen too often. Glad he got out. Glad he got somewhere he could thrive in a little more public manner. All right, a guy I was very surprised to see slip to the third round, the guard Emmanuel Pregnon. What does Emmanuel bring into the NFL in Jacksonville?
Yeah, that's a big body. First of all, he's a good human. I love being around him. Only got to be around him for a year, but I feel like I've known him forever. But no, once again, one of the hardest workers you're gonna find. He does really well in any type of zone scheme, gap scheme. He's gonna move bodies. He's gonna create movement at the point of attack, which is huge.
Okay, day three pick went to Kansas City. Cornerback you probably faced off with a little bit in practice, Jaden Kennedy.
Yeah, that's my guy.
Yeah,
We hang out all the time. We'd always go at it in practice. He's,
nice.
in my opinion, it's him and D'Angelo Pons are the best cover players
Yeah,
in college football. He did a great job of guarding, Mekhi Lemon, any of those
yeah,
guys. They didn't really do anything on him. So, no, he's definitely an undersized guy, but you don't see it in his play at all. He's going to
yeah.
make plays at the line of scrimmage. He's going to make plays in the pass game.
I believe the correct term is got that dog in him. And finally, what is Las Vegas getting in Malik Benson?
Yeah, speed. Malik's so
I mean,
fast, and you can go watch, that last Washington clip of him, that game winner, and you just see everything you need to see there. He's a great guy, and like I said, he's fast, and he's gonna get open for sure.
one last question for you. Maybe an easy one. Where's the worst place you ever played in college?
Worst, like loudest, or just like worst?
Place you hated to play. I mean, it could be loudest, could just be the jankiest. I mean, some of the other Big Ten guys maybe brought up Michigan because they hated the noise. Maybe brought up Wisconsin because they didn't have any noise lately.
Yeah. For me, I'd probably say like Rutgers.
Okay.
Being one, the travel, and then
Yeah.
two, just like the crowd and everything. It was fun for about the first 5 minutes of the first quarter, and then it was everyone's leaving, no one's in the stands. We're other
Yeah.
side of the country.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, I really appreciate your time. I'll let you get back to it. I know you're a busy man, but Kenyon Sadiq, thank you so much for being here, and I really appreciate your answers.
Thank you.
Cheers.